Welcome to Integrity Linguistics Institute. So in today's class, we will be discussing about the part C of the OET reading. Right. So we know that reading part C is basically consisting of two extracts, basically two very long passages consisting of 8 or 9 paragraphs, and for each extract there will be 8 multiple choice questions with 4 answer options, and we have different types of questions, right? So we have inference type questions, we have opinion type questions, we have perspective type questions, direct questions, and so forth. So today we will be discussing about inference type questions. Okay, that is what we'll be discussing today. All right, so we have Dr. Lakshmi here. Good evening, doctor. All right. So today, let's take a look into what and all we'll be discussing. So there will be 2 questions over here. And the first question that we'll be discussing will be about something called, disproving an assumption. Okay, so you will understand what assumptions are in OET reading. Okay, how to identify assumptions and how to identify when the passage is disproving them. Disproving them means what? Assumption basically means a belief system. Okay, and the new information is basically contradicting that belief system. Okay, so that requires a lot of inference skills. So we'll be understanding that. And obviously, when it comes to OET, there are a lot of traps, and we should be able to avoid those traps, a lot of distractors. Then the second question also is going to be an inference type question. So this is going to be an inference type question related to the genes, that is genetic information about human population. So that is why I have termed it as genetic inference question. And here you will be able to understand the answer with logical conclusions from implied content. Now, what does implied meaning? Implied basically means it is not said directly. That is, in the passage, they have not directly mentioned it. They have indirectly mentioned it. Okay, and we have to understand, this is what they are saying. Okay, this is what they are implying. Okay, it is not directly mentioned, it is implied, and that requires, once again, inference. Inference basically means what? Inference basically means coming to your own conclusions. Okay, so you read a passage and you come to, after reading it, you understand it, and you're drawing a conclusion through your reasoning skills. That is what we call as inference. Okay, and the inference is coming from implied content. Okay, so that skill is very important and all that. And we'll be discussing certain strategies as well. Again, you have to be a strategist, right? As I told you earlier, imagine that you are playing chess with your opponent. Okay, now the opponent knows how to play chess. You also know how to play chess. But who wins the game? The person who has the strategies with them, right? The person who has the right techniques with them, that is the person who wins the game. So here also you should have the right strategies with you, the right approach with you, so that you can navigate through the reading part C questions. So we'll be talking about elimination skills, the importance of time management, okay, and vocabulary decoding through context. All right, so by the end of the session, I hope to give you the ability to confidently handle complex inference-based questions. So both these inference-based questions over here, they are advanced level. Okay, so I'm giving you a heads up. The questions that we'll be discussing today will not be extremely straightforward. It is going to be slightly advanced. And again, you should be able to expect these type of questions on the examination day. Okay, and by the end of today's session, you should be able to identify implied meaning. Okay, that is the hidden meaning. Okay, the hidden meaning, that is information that is not directly stated. Okay, so that identification skill. Okay, not simply reading. So the name of the test is reading test. All right, so when we think reading, simple, let me just read and go. Basically, when the very beginning, when I started this journey, the very first day, when I thought, okay, reading means what? Okay, all I have to do is read, right? But then I was completely shocked. Reading is just one superficial layer. Beneath it, there are so many layers, and we have to, conquer each of those layers to get our desired OET scores. And by the end of the session, maybe we will try to develop your logical reasoning skills to eliminate distractors. Why? Because we have multiple choice questions, we have 4 answer options, And choosing the correct answer is important, but even more important is basically eliminating the useless information, right? So that skill is extremely important. If you're able to eliminate the useless information away, then you will be left with the correct answer option, right? And also improve accuracy and efficiency. Okay, this is what today's class agenda is, reading part C. So let's take the question for today. So this is management of burns. So in the OET exam mastery app, okay, you can see that these recorded lectures, okay, so that is to teach one single reading, 42 questions. The app consists of basically 4.5 hours of recorded content, 4.5 hours, and it has thousands of slides, right? And it was not at all an easy process making them, but it has been given exclusively to our students, so utilize them to the greatest advantage. And as always, we will be discussing only the Cambridge Voxel language assessment materials, because these are the official OET materials, and this is management of burns. All right, so we have Chinchu here. Hi Chinchu, good evening. All right, so reading part C. Okay, so part C basically consists of two passages. So this is passage number 1. Okay, this is, let me just take a look over here. Right, so this is passage number 1. That is, it's called allergic to eating. Yeah, hi Chinju. Right, and then so we will be discussing text 2 over here. All right, so we'll be taking, because today's questions will be inference questions, and I have purposefully selected slightly advanced level questions. All right, so let's see how it goes. Right, so the main topic over here is prenatal origins of heart disease. Right, so prenatal basically means what? Even before birth, right? Neonatal ICU. Okay, what is neonatal ICU? Okay, where small infants are basically placed, right? So prenatal basically means what? Even before birth. So heart disease, okay, heart disease happening in human beings even before they are born. Okay, and how it originates, that is what we call as prenatal origins of heart disease. So it is a very complex topic, and this particular passage over here, it consists of a lot of theories, it consists of a lot of experiments and studies, right? So let's see how it is. So as you can see, there are a lot of passages over here. Let's take a look into the questions that we'll be discussing. So as you can see, there are different types of questions. Now, for example, this is a vocabulary type question. Now see here, the question is asking you, when the writer uses the word cost in the second paragraph, what is she referring to? Now see, they have used one particular word over here, that is cost. And what is your duty? Your duty is to understand the meaning of this particular vocabulary in the context of this particular passage and identify what cost is referring to. So these are what we call as vocabulary type questions. Now this is a direct question. This is a detail specific question. What information can be found in the first paragraph? That is, one particular detail has been given in the first paragraph, and what is that specific information? So that is what we call as a detail specific question. Okay, detail specific question, vocabulary type question, and so forth. Okay, so here, and this is an opinion type question. Now you see in the third paragraph, what does the author suggest about the work of international research community? So according to the author, what is his take on the work done about the international research community? So that's an opinion type question. So you have to think like from the perspective of the author. Okay, so as you can see, there are different types of questions over here. So here we will be discussing the 19th question and the 20th question. Both are what? They are inference questions. Inference basically means what? You have to read the passage, you have to come to your own conclusion. You have to draw your own conclusion through the implied meaning. Implied basically means not directly stated, it is indirectly stated. You have to understand, okay, this is what the author is saying. Okay, so there is a little bit of an opinion, thinking from the perspective of the author, and at the same time using your reasoning skills to infer the meaning. All right, so this is the 19th question. So first, I want every one of you to read the 19th question, to read the passage and try to find the answer on your own, right? So once you have attempted it, Then I'll be giving you a detailed session talking about the right strategies. So just give me a second. Yeah. So let's 1 second. Let's see if this technique works. So I believe it's going to be in the 5th paragraph. The assumption was wrong. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So the question is clear as along with the passage, right? Yeah. So everyone, read the question. This is the question. This is the passage. And type your answer in the chat box. Those who know the answer, I wanted you to write because you have thoroughly understood the answer, not some guesswork. Okay. So let's take a look into the question. Okay, so this is a question over here. What assumption was proved wrong by the results of the study? Okay, so what assumption? Okay, assumption basically means what? A belief system. Okay, assumption. So I assume the world is a sphere, right? So many years ago, the people actually assumed. What was the assumption? That the world was basically flat. Some people do still believe. It's a very hard theory to dispose, basically, right? So assumption basically means what? A belief system. Okay, so for a very long time, people actually believed one particular information. They assumed one particular information. But what happened? Suddenly, that entire belief system, that entire assumption was proved wrong. Okay, so all these years, what they believed was basically incorrect. And how did people come to this understanding? By the results of a study. Okay, study basically means an experiment. Okay, so an experiment was done, and the findings are basically the results. So when the results came out, it basically shocked everyone. Okay, that is, it completely was the opposite of what people believed. So what is your question over here? The question over here is asking you what belief or what assumption was proved wrong. So what is answer option A, B, C, and D? Answer option A, answer option B, C, and D are all assumptions. Okay, so maybe answer option A was the assumption that was proved wrong after this study was published. Maybe it was B. B was the answer option. B was the assumption that was proved wrong after the results came out. Okay, or maybe it was C or D. So all answer options here, A, B, C, and D, are all assumptions. And what is your duty here? Among these four assumptions, which was proved to be wrong or incorrect by the results of this particular study? Right. So let's take a look into this document that I have prepared, and then we will have a detailed discussion. This is the 19th question. Right. So I will be sharing this document to you after the session is done. So what is the question asking you? What assumption was proved wrong by the results of the study? So it asks you to identify a belief or general idea, also a general idea people commonly held on to in the past, and then spot how the passage disproves it with evidence or outcome. Okay, so this is not a direct first fact match question. Okay, so you are not basically matching a fact over here. First and foremost, you have to detect the assumption, that is, what is the unspoken belief. Okay, and then you need to understand the actual findings. So once you've identified the assumption, then you have to look for evidence. Okay, what was the evidence of the study and how it is basically, and then you have to compare them. Okay, then you have to compare the assumption to the findings and then understand why this assumption got contradicted. Okay, and then you have to choose which assumption it was. So what are the skills you need? You need to have inference skills, that is drawing conclusions and logical reasoning. Okay, so thinking very logically and thinking very practically, that skill is extremely important. Recognizing unstated assumptions. Okay, so that is, there will be certain assumptions or belief system that may not be directly mentioned, it is implied. Okay, and even though it is implied, you should still be able to identify them. So that skill is very important. Evaluating how a study disproves it, so how one particular information has been disproved. Okay, and you should also have the ability to read very carefully and make comparisons. Okay, so the assumption number one and the result of the study, so obviously the comparison should be there, only then you will be able to pinpoint the correct answer. Right. And there are certain vocabulary, so there are certain advanced vocabulary in the question, and the synonyms and certain examples and all I have prepared over here. So I'll be sharing this information to you later on. Right. So as you can see, there are a lot of very advanced vocabulary like determinant, pronouns reduction, fetal oxygenation and all. So I'll send it to you later on. So let's do something called the comprehension, retention, as well as the detection. Right. So again, I just really like to type all these things down as frequently as possible. So first and foremost, it is comprehension. That is what? Understanding the question. Okay, because question is the most important priority for us. And then comes retention, that is registering the memory of the question to your mind. And then comes detection. Okay, and then you have to go to the passage and detect what the answer is, and that involves doing the elimination strategy. Okay, so elimination strategy is extremely important, and for that you will have to do the verb analysis. Okay, that is identify the stem of the question or the stem of the answer option, that is the focal point of the answer option, and focus only on that, and then accordingly eliminate the incorrect answer options. And to comprehend a question, you should bring in your keyword analyzing skills, and obviously you have to do all these things very rapidly on the examination day. Right. So let's take a look into the keyword analysis of answer option A. So what is answer option A telling? Lower income mothers generally give birth to lower weight babies. So this is assumption number one. Lower income mothers. Lower income basically means what? Mothers who come from financial background That's basically they have low income. Okay, low income. That is very poor people. Okay, so people who are very poor. Okay, that is lower income mothers. These type of mothers, they give birth to lower weight babies. Okay, so what is the assumption over here? Okay, lower income mothers, when they give birth, their babies will be lower weight. Okay, so that was the belief system. Okay, and maybe this belief system was proved wrong by the results of the study. Now let's take a look into answer option B. A baby born at high altitude. Okay, so high altitude basically means what? Hill stations. Okay, that is mountain areas. Okay, so a baby born at high altitude will typically weigh less than one born at sea level. Okay, that is ground level. So basically, when we talk about geography, okay, the base level is what we call as the sea level. Okay, and from the sea level only we actually calculate the height of mountains. So when we say Mount Everest is this much, or Mount Fuji is this much, how are the scientists calculating the height of Mount Everest? They are calculating the height of Mount Everest from the sea level. Okay, so that is what they're telling. So a baby born at high altitude, okay, a baby who's born at high altitude will typically weigh less than one born at sea level. Okay, so who is heavier over here? The sea level, that is the babies who are born at sea level are more heavier. Okay, they weigh more than babies born at high altitude. And maybe this is the assumption that was proved to be incorrect. Okay, so you must never forget what the question is asking you. So all assumptions over here. Now let's come to answer option C. Levels of oxygen have a greater impact on birth weight than nutritional status. So here there is a comparison. So don't you think there is a comparison over here? What are they comparing? Levels of oxygen. Okay, so see, as in higher altitude, oxygen is less. Okay, so that is why people who climb Mount Everest and all, they wear oxygen mask. So as we go up, oxygen availability is basically less. So level of oxygen has greater impact on birth weight than nutritional status. So there is a comparison. So here they're telling oxygen is more important. Oxygen is more important than nutrition received by a baby in the womb for birth weight. Okay, so two things over here. And then finally, we have D option. There is a correlation. Correlation basically means there is a link, there is a connection between prenatal oxygen levels. Prenatal basically means what? During pregnancy, during the gestation period. Okay, when the baby is still in the womb, that is what we call as prenatal. So there is a direct correlation, direct link between prenatal oxygen levels and predisposition to heart disease. Predisposition basically means exposure. Okay, disposition, okay, basically means exposure. So these type of people, okay, that is these type of babies who who did not get enough oxygen level when they were in the mother's womb, okay, these type of babies, they are more exposed. Okay, they are more vulnerable to develop heart disease. That is what we call as predisposition. Okay, predisposition basically means exposure. Okay, so like this we have basically identified the keywords. So you get 2 minutes time. You can spend up to 2 minutes time per question. So when you get the question with your pencil, with a calm, clear mind, you have to read the 19th question. Okay, what assumption was proved wrong by the results of the study? Lower income mothers generally give birth to lower weight babies and all that. Okay, so as you go like this, identify the keywords, but more importantly, what you should do is basically identify the verbs over here. Okay, let's identify the verbs over here, the actions over here, and this is what will help us to eliminate the incorrect answer options. So what is the verb in answer option A? Lower income mothers generally give birth to lower weight babies. So giving birth, okay, giving birth to lower weight babies. Okay, so that is the verb over here. Now come to answer option B. A baby born at high altitude will typically weigh less than one born at sea level. Okay, so weighing less over here. Okay, a person born at, so again, the keyword should be over here. So weighing less. So here also there's a comparison. High altitude baby, the weight will be very less compared to a baby born at sea level. Okay, way less. C option, levels of oxygen have a greater impact. Okay, so a greater impact over here, greater impact on birth weight. That is oxygen. Oxygen has a greater impact. Okay, I would say maybe this one. Levels of oxygen has a greater impact. So this is the verb over here. Than nutritional status, and then there is a correlation. Okay, so correlation is the verb. There is a correlation. That is, there is a connection between prenatal oxygen levels and disposition to heart disease. Now you see over here, this is how you should be able to make the connections. Okay, so this is extremely important. Only then, if you see this extra effort, okay, this 5 seconds extra, if you're giving per question, that 5 seconds will basically save 30 seconds when you are reading the passage. Okay, so a little bit extra effort and time dedicating to the question is always worth it. Not too much detail, but on the examination day, obviously you will be, that adrenaline kick you will be getting and be able to do a little bit more quickly. So let's make the connections over here. So what is assumption number one? Assumption number one is give birth to lower weight babies. Lower income mothers giving birth to lower weight babies. Second assumption that was proved wrong is a baby born at high altitude will weigh less. Okay, the weight will be less. Second one, oxygen impact. Oxygen has a higher, greater impact than nutritional status. That was the third assumption. And the fourth assumption is there is a connection. There is a connection between prenatal oxygen levels and predisposition to heart disease. Okay, so like this, you have to read the question, do the keywords as I told you. Now see, when you're looking into this question over here, your eyesight is not automatically going to the highlighted words. Don't you agree? See, over here, your eyesight is going everywhere. As soon as I highlight one word, your eyesight is going here. You're not looking anywhere else. That is the advantage of doing the keyword analysis like this. Okay, so again, read very quality reading. Okay, quantity is not important. Quality, when you're reading, you have to make sure that you're reading just one single time, but it is quality reading, and that will help you to save more time. Right, so now this idea, okay, so this comprehension you have done. Now you have to retain this information to your memory. Okay, so now you have to understand your duty. Okay, I have read through the assumptions over here. So my duty is to find out what assumption was proved wrong. Now let's go to the difficult part. Understanding the question is actually the easiest part, but coming to the passage and understanding the passage, and sometimes without even understanding the passage also we can find the answer just by bringing the elimination strategy, but that requires going back and forth. So I'll tell you how we can go back and forth even if you don't understand the passage and still choose the correct answer, because everything is multiple choice questions. But for the sake of teaching, I definitely will have to go into a little bit detail over here. So let's read the first sentence. Okay, so there is a person called Guzani and his team. Okay, Guzani and his team studied birth weight records from healthy term pregnancies in 2 Bolivian cities at obstetric hospitals. Is this the question? No, this one, right? This was a paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this one. Yeah, this is the paragraph. Okay, so what Guzani found. Okay, now see, what was the question asking you? There was a study done, right? There was a study done, and this results of the study disproved something. So what is the very first sentence is of telling? The very first sentence is beginning with the result of the study. Okay, so what was the result of the first study? What Guzani found. Okay, so he found something. So they are directly talking about the results of the study. Okay, so this is what they're beginning with, not the assumption. Okay, so let's see what the result of the study is. Was that high altitude babies, that is babies who are born at high altitudes, showed a pronounced reduction in birth weight compared with low altitude babies, even in cases of high maternal nutritional status. Now, did we read this anywhere? So what is this sentence telling? This sentence is telling high altitude babies showed a pronounced basically means what? Pronounced basically means stronger. Okay, more stronger. Pronounced means little bit more emphasis is there. Okay, high altitude babies showed a pronounced reduction, that is a very big reduction in birth weight compared with low altitude babies. So let me just, for the sake of easy understanding, let's say a high altitude baby was maybe 2.5 kg. Okay, 2.5 kg showed a reduction in birth weight compared with low altitude babies, but a low altitude baby was basically 3.5 kg. Okay, so this is what the study found out. Babies born at high altitude are have reduced birth weight than low altitude babies. Okay, and then what are they saying? Even in cases of high maternal nutrition status. Maternal basically means what? Mother. Okay, so the mother got a lot of nutrition. So the mother who was living in high altitude, the mother was not at all malnourished. Okay, the mother got a lot of high quality nutrition, but even after that also, when the baby was born, the baby's weight was very less. High altitude babies. Now, what did we read in one of the answer options over here? Here, what they told you, a baby born at high altitude will typically weigh less than one born at sea level. Okay, so this is exactly what is mentioned in the first sentence over here. That is, a baby born at high altitude will weigh less than one born at sea level. Okay, so each and every single keyword over here is mentioned. Okay, everything is mentioned over here. The verbs are mentioned, everything. But what is the question asking you? Was this assumption proved wrong? Okay, so this is not an assumption. Okay, this over here is basically not an assumption. This is basically the result of the study. Okay, so this answer option B over here, it is not an assumption. Okay, it is not an assumption. This over here, so you have to make this correction. Okay, you have to be able to make this link over here. This is basically the result of the study. Okay. Okay, so answer option B is not the assumption, it is the result of the study. But what is the question asking you? The question is not asking you what was the result of the study. The question is asking you, there was an assumption, there was a belief system, and what belief system was proved to be wrong. Right. So even though answer option B is exactly mentioned as the sentence over there, we cannot choose answer option B because B is not the assumption. It is basically a result. So immediately you have eliminated answer option B just by reading the first sentence. Now this is the benefit of reading the question first. Okay, when you read the question, that's I told you, when you put a little bit extra effort into the question, that is always going to be worth it when you read the passage. So if you were a student who read the question, did the keyword analysis, did the verb analysis, as soon as you read the first sentence, you could have eliminated answer option B. Now you're only left with three answer options, A, B, A, C, and D. Okay, so this is the technique over here. This elimination technique, you have to be able to refine and perfect it. Okay, now you see just one sentence, not even one, just one sentence we have read, and now we are going to the second sentence. Now let's see. Babies born to low income mothers. Okay, so now they're talking about the poor mothers. Okay, babies born to low income mothers at sea level, that is at ground level, also showed a reduction in birth weight. Okay, so at sea level, poor mothers, the babies were basically having very low birth weight only. Now you see over here the word but. Okay, now this is a very, very important word in OET reading. Okay, the word but over here, this is what we call as one of the most common, I would say the most common contrast phrase. Okay, the most common contrast phrase. So remember this word over here. It is but is basically the most common contrast phrase. And what is a contrast phrase? A contrast phrase is a word that signals sudden change of information. Okay, a word that signals a sudden change of information, that is from positive to negative or from negative to positive. Now see over here, what is the statement telling us? Babies born to low income mothers at sea level also showed a reduction in birth weight. So what kind of information is that? That is a negative information, right? Don't you think that is a negative information? Okay, so poor mothers, when they give birth at sea level, the negative outcome is that the baby's birth weight is less. Now the word but is coming. Now as soon as you hear the word but, now you can say the information that is going to come over here is going to be positive. Without any doubt we can say. So let's see what is the positive information that is coming. So here what are they saying? Let's just take a look into the question. But the effect of undernutrition. Okay, undernutrition basically means what? Opposite of overnutrition. Undernutrition means malnourishment. Okay, but the effect of malnourishment was not as pronounced as the effect of high altitude on birth weight. Okay, so what is the positive information over here? A baby may be malnourished. Okay, baby may be malnourished, but there is one thing even more dangerous than malnourishment when it comes to birth weight. What is that? What is the dangerous thing? So undernourishment is not a good thing. Malnourishment is not a good thing. But over here, there is one more important thing that is more dangerous than malnourishment when it comes to birth weight. What is that? Effect of high altitude. Okay, effect of high altitude is even more dangerous than malnourishment. Okay, so here he is saying babies born to low income mothers at sea level also showed a reduction in birth weight. Okay, so sea level babies, poor people, the babies weightless. But there is something even more dangerous than malnourishment. What is that? Staying in high altitude. People who are living in high altitude, okay, the birth weight will be even more less. Right, so that is the positive information. That is, see, so it is not very negative. So having low income is not as negative as being at high altitude. Right, clearly fetal oxygenation, fetal basically means the baby in the womb, okay, fetus. Fetal oxygenation was more important determinant of fetal growth within these communities. So here, what is the sentence telling? Fetal oxygen, that is oxygen level. So at high altitude there is less oxygen. Okay, high altitude there is less oxygen, and that is what the information is. Fetal oxygenation was more important than nutrition. Fetal oxygen levels is more important than nutrition. Okay, that determines the growth of fetus within the communities. Now, did we read that anywhere over here? Okay, so did we read? What is C option telling us? Levels of oxygen have a greater impact on birth weight than nutritional status does. Okay, so everything over here is also exactly the same. Okay, so just like B, okay, so just like B, every single information over here is correct. So here B option told you a baby born at high altitude will weigh less than at sea levels, and here also the level of oxygen levels has a greater impact on birth weight than nutritional status. Okay, so what is more important than nutrition when it comes to birth weight? Levels of oxygen. Okay, so that is also so every single keyword is mentioned over here. But can we choose answer option C even though it is completely mentioned? Okay, so here you have to understand whether answer option C is a assumption or whether it was a study. So assumption basically means what? A belief system. Okay, a belief system over here. But this one also, answer option C, also I don't think it is an assumption. People are not believing, people are not assuming, okay, if that is oxygen levels are more important than nutrition. Okay, this is also a result. So answer option C over here is also, they did an experiment on high altitude mothers, on low altitude mothers, and this is what they found out. So just like answer option B, answer option C is also not an assumption. It is basically a result over here. Right. Yeah. Okay, so just let's. Okay, so what can be done? So we can now eliminate answer option B as well as C. So 2, because why everything over here, they are only asking about, they're only talking about the results. Okay, but what do we need over here? We need to find what was the assumption that was proved wrong by these results. So these results have come, but what did these results contradict? That is what we need to find out. Now you're left with 2 answer options. Now it is either A or D. Now you see, without even reading the full paragraph over here, that is, you have just read the middle of the paragraph, and just in the middle of the paragraph, you have basically eliminated 2 answer options. Right? Now let's come to the last one over here. Although one might assume, now see, this is where the assumption is coming. Okay, so now this is where you have to think, yes, I'm waiting for the assumption. I don't care about the results. I only care about the assumptions. Or remarkably means what? Interestingly. Although one might assume, okay, so this is the assumption over here, that babies born to mothers of low income status, okay, so mothers who come from low income, low social socioeconomic status at high altitude, okay, would show the greatest reduction in birth weight. These babies were actually heavier than babies born to high income mothers at high altitude. It turns out the difference lies in ancestry. So this is the assumption that was actually in question. Okay, so let's just read the thing over here. Okay, now this is where the answer is. So remarkably, one might assume, so what is the assumption? That babies born to mothers of low socio-economic status at high altitude, okay, high altitude poor people would show the greatest reduction in birth weight, right? Because they are already poor and already there is very low oxygen levels. So what is the assumption? The assumption is, okay, if a person is very poor and if the person is living in high altitude, obviously the baby's birth would be very, very low. That is the assumption. Okay. Now what is the paragraph saying? These babies were actually heavier, but poor people in high altitude, those babies were basically heavier. Okay, the birth weight was much heavier than babies born to high income mothers. Okay, high income mothers at high altitude. Okay, so poor people, rich people. Okay, poor people's babies were basically heavier than rich people's babies at high altitude. This is the assumption that was basically proven. Okay, this is the assumption that was proven wrong. It turns out the difference lies in ancestry, so genetics. Okay, that is where the answer. So let's come to the question. Now we have eliminated answer option B and D, B and C. Okay, because B is a result, not an assumption. C also is a result, that is also an assumption. Now what is answer option A over here? So this is the assumption. So what is your duty? Your duty is to find what the assumption was. Assumption was lower income mothers generally give birth to lower weight babies. Okay, poor people at high altitude, they give birth to babies who are low, but that was the assumption that was proven wrong, because according to the study, what did they find out? They found out that lower income mothers, their babies were heavier than high income people. Okay, the difference was in the ancestry, so something in the genetics. Okay, the poor people had some kind of genetic adaptation to high altitude. Because of that, their babies were heavier than the rich people. Okay, so this is the assumption that was proven to be incorrect. So we can say answer option A is the right answer. Okay, so because this is a keyword, this is the assumption as well. Now let's come to answer option D. What is answer option D telling? There is a correlation. Okay, there is a link between prenatal oxygen levels and predisposition to heart disease. Now you see over here, did we read anything about heart disease? Okay, so maybe prenatal oxygen levels is mentioned. Okay, okay, so this entire part is mentioned over here, but anything related to heart, so okay, this is mentioned. Okay, no, correlation is not mentioned. This is mentioned, but anything related to heart disease, did we read? Nothing. So this is not mentioned. So why should we give any importance to something that is not mentioned? So since D, heart disease, we did not read anything anywhere, D we can simply eliminate. We can just simply ignore it, right? So the answer option over here is A. So this is how it is done. Right. Now see, when it comes to reading, many students, what they do is they are able to find the correct answer. Okay, that is well and good. That deserves appreciation. But at the same time, you should have a thorough clarity on why B is wrong, C is wrong, and D is wrong. That only means, only then we can say that you have thoroughly, grasped the concept of OET strategies. Right. So this is the inference type question. Okay, so there was a lot of comparison. There was a lot of comparison involved, and there was a lot of elimination that was done. And you should have the ability to identify what an assumption is, what a result over here is, and then make the connection. Now so before we go to the 20th question over here, now see, on the examination day, you will not have this much time. Okay, so that does not mean, so this is what many students asking, so you're taking such a long time to explain this, and how on earth am I going to do all these things on the examination day? So there is no other way. See, basically, if you give me this question, I'm able to find the answer in less than 1 minute. Okay, but how can I basically teach that in just something in less than 1 minute? So I have to basically, give the full spectrum of information. Okay, and now let's say that you get this particular question, and you want to find the answer as soon as possible. Okay, so what you need to do is you come to the 19th question. Okay, take a deep breath and just clear your mind, remove all the 18, 17 question away from your data, from your mind. Read the 19th question. You read what assumption was proved wrong by the result. Okay, understand, okay, that's the result, and one assumption was proved wrong, and then you understand, you ask yourself, what is my duty here? Okay, my duty here is to disprove an assumption. All right, now in lower income others generally give birth to, okay, so this is what they underline the keywords: poor people, this thing, high altitude, way less. Okay, so like this you just go through the answer options, but you should be able to identify the keywords, underline the keywords, and have a small concept. Okay, this is the information, this is the gist of the information that is coming from the answer options. Okay, and that you should basically retain into your memory. Now what with that idea, okay, assumption, and these are the assumptions. Okay, these are the verbs over here, these are keywords over here. So with that memory in your mind, then you should go to the paragraph. Okay, and then as you read the paragraph, you just read. Okay, just read it one time, and if it is an easy question, you will be able to find the answer a little bit more easily. Okay, directly you will be able to choose the correct answer if it is an easy question. But if it is not an easy question, even after you read the full paragraph, you will not be able to understand it. So what you need to do is go back and forth. Remember, okay, so I'll just type it over here. Okay, so these are for those students who find the language to be difficult. Those who find the language to be difficult, that is, they read the passage, but they are not able to understand. They don't understand the information. So my advice to them is go back and forth. Back and forth basically means go to the answer option A, read the answer option A, and then you come to the answer option, come to the passage, and you see, okay, is the keywords over here mentioned here or not, and then you see whether you are able to eliminate answer option A or not eliminate answer option A, and then you go to answer option B. Once again, go to answer option B, right? You read answer option B. Okay, so let's see. Okay, lower income others generally give birth to, and then you read come over here, and then once again you go to answer option B. Okay, you read only answer option B, and once again you go over here. So what happens is you are not overloading your brain with too much information. In your brain there is just one answer option at a time. So even though you may not have really good language skills, or if the paragraph is very, very difficult, in your brain there is just one answer option. There is not 4 answer options. Okay, and you just go back and forth, and then you try to bring in the elimination strategies. And this is something that you again bring in the right practice, and consistently implement the practice sessions and refine. Okay, again, this is not something that happens instantaneously. You have to be very patient with skill development. Those who are expecting sudden improvement in listening and reading, that is not something I will promise to any of the students, right? And again, you can always reach out to me. Okay, so if you reach out to me through WhatsApp, I can always give you the right guidance. Because there's another thing about listening and reading. So before we go to 20th question, I want to say that everyone's brain is wired different. Everyone's brain over here, right? So for example, over here, like maybe Chinju finds opinion type questions easy. Maybe Dr. Lakshmi finds detail specific questions easy. Maybe Ramya finds vocabulary type questions easy. Or maybe Rubina finds factual based questions easy. So everyone's brain is wired different. Okay, so therefore I cannot give one strategy that fits for everyone. I can just give a general strategy that usually works for in most cases. Ultimately, it is up to you to understand, okay, this is one of the techniques, one of the approaches. Let me see if it works for me. So, and then there is a self-discovery of strategies that happens. So what are these strategies? No one taught me these strategies. These strategies is something that I discovered on myself, that I have perfected it, and which has helped a lot of my students, and that in a refined way I'm giving you. But ultimately, you have to put in the practice yourself and see if these strategies are working for you or not. And if it is not working, you let me know, and I'll give you a walk around regarding that. Right, so let's go to the 20th question. One, two, three, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so all these detailed lectures are available in the app. So those are using iPhone, just let me know, and I will share you the link to the record lectures through Google Drive. So this is the question. Let's see. Just give me a second. Management of bones. Yeah, no problem, Chinchu. You may leave for duty. No worries. Yeah, I'll send you the link. All right, so this is the question over here. All right, so you have some time to read the question. So you can go back and forth. Remember when I told you, if you find it difficult, just read answer option A, read the paragraph, eliminate or keep it there. Then you come to B, read only B, then you read the paragraph. So that is what we call as going back and forth. But you should have a clear understanding about the question, the stem of the question stem. So you can stay laser sharp. In the previous question, 2 answer options were clearly mentioned, exactly as it is. But still they were not correct. Because why? They were asking about the assumption. Understand the question over here. Right. So shall we take a look into the question? All right. So let's see what type of question this is. All right. So this is also basically an inference type question. Okay. Inference as a higher order inference type question. And the students must connect ideas that are implied. Okay. So here also that they will not direct, the OET is very cunning. They will not directly state the information. The information may be implied. Okay, and still, even though it is implied information, you must be able to connect the information, use your logical reasoning, okay, and come to your own conclusion. That is what we call as inference type questions. Okay, so there is a step-by-step thing over here. So lot of advanced vocabulary, in this question. So you should be able to locate who are the poor people, who are the rich people. So the poor people are basically the Aymara Indians. Okay, that is the ancient high altitude dwellers. Okay, settlers means rich people are those who came from. Okay, so like there's a lot of important information over here. So that and all I'll be sharing with you along with the advanced vocabulary. So there are a lot of advanced, like inhabitants, ethnic diversity, ancestry, right? Aymara Indians, ethnic group, millennia. So there's a lot of advanced admixture. Okay, so conforce production, right? So good, very big these things and all. So that and all I'll be sharing this as a document later on. Right. So let's take a look into this particular question. Right. So let's take a look into the 20th question. So this is a high order inference type question. Okay, so what is the question stem? Okay, so the stem of the question basically means what? The focal point of the question. The question stem. Okay, and see, for this, let me just come to this over here as well. Now here, what is the question stem? Okay, here in this previous question, the question stem was what assumption was proved wrong. Okay, so a belief system was proved wrong. But over here, answer option B and answer option C, it was exactly mentioned. The same words, the same information, exactly it was mentioned as given in the passage. But what were B and C? The B and C were results of the study. Alright, so you have to have a clear idea regarding the question stem. If you forget the question stem, then even though you comprehend the question, you understand all the information, and you will really struggle with eliminating the correct answer option. Okay, so here also understanding the stem of the question, the focus of the question is extremely important. So here in the 6th paragraph, what is suggested? So we have an author. So remember that in reading part C, this passage was written by a person. So it is basically a conversation. The person is conversing with you. Okay, so you have to read the passage from the perspective of the author. So from the perspective of the author, there is a suggestion made about the inhabitants of La Paz. And one funny thing about OET and IELTS and all, they use very funny names. For example, now you see over here, Guzani. This is very common. Okay, whenever they use words of people as well as places, very funny names they use is something that I have observed several times. So okay, so basically there is a place, okay, the place called La Paz. So what is La Paz over here? The La Paz over here is a name of a place, okay, like Mumbai, like Pune, like Hyderabad. It is basically a name of a place. Okay, La Paz is the name of a place, and here the inhabitants basically means what? The people who are living there. Okay, so the question is asking you, what is the author suggesting, okay, about the people living in La Paz? What suggestion is made by the author? This is the question stem. Okay, inhabitants of La Paz, a suggestion has been made. Okay, and this is your duty. So what your duty is to find out what is the author suggesting about the people living in La Paz. Okay, and that if we forget the question stem, then it is going to be extremely challenging to eliminate the incorrect answer options, even if you understand the entire passage. So let's read answer option A. Okay, so what is answer option A, B, C, and D? They are all suggestions. Okay, so you must not forget that A is a suggestion of people living there. B, C, and D are all suggestions of people living in a place called La Paz. All right, so now let's take a look into what suggestion number 1 is. The suggestion over here is the altitude affects all socio-economic groups in similar way. Okay, socio-economic groups basically means what? Social status and economic status. That is the rich people, poor people, middle class. Okay, middle class, high class, what is it? Okay, we have so many classes and all, right? So that is all, all socioeconomic groups, that is the rich, poor, and the middle class. The altitude affects them. Altitude basically means what? The height. Okay, the altitude affects everyone in a similar way. Okay, so if you're poor, if you're rich, or if you're middle class, it does not matter. The altitude is going to affect you the same. That is the suggestion about people living in La Paz. Okay, so regarding, again, remember this about the people living in La Paz, the suggestion is the altitude affects every single person the same way. There is no discrimination there. That is the suggestion by the author about the people living in La Paz. That connection you should always have, because if that question stem connection is gone, then you may choose the incorrect answer option, even though that should not happen. Let's come to answer option B. There is a high degree of ethnic diversity at all levels of society. Okay, so ethnic diversity. So ethnicity. Ethnicity basically means our race. Okay, our ancestry. Okay, like African population, Chinese population, Sri Lankan population, Indian population. Okay, so like like there are different ethnicities, right? So there is a high degree, that means there is too much. Okay, there is a lot of high degree of ethnic diversity. There's a lot of diversity basically means what? Diverse means variety, a big variety of ethnic diversity at all levels of society. So that is in rich people, in poor people, in middle class people, all of them have mixed diversity. Okay, different types of background people are there in all levels of society. That is what suggested about people living in La Paz. Now, answer option C. Most residents have shared ancestry going back 2000 years. Okay, most residents, that is most people living in La Paz have a shared ancestry. Shared ancestry basically means what? Their ancestors are the same. Okay, sharing means what? Okay, I'm sharing my food with you. That means what? You are eating the same food as me. That is what sharing means. So shared ancestry basically means what? The people over here. So there may be 1 lakh people, but all the 1 lakh people have the same ancestors. Okay, so when you go 2000 years back, all these 1 lakh people, they had the same great grandparents. That is the suggestion. Okay, the suggestion of people living in La Paz is that many people over there have shared ancestry going back to 2000 years. Finally, the suggestion over here is poor residents. Okay, that is people from low socio-economic status. They have a genetic advantage over those with higher incomes. Okay, so the genetic build-up. Okay, so poor people, they have more genetic resistance. Okay, that is they have adapted, their genetics is basically adapted better to live in high altitude than those with people who are rich. Okay, so poor people, their genes are better. Okay, their genes are better than the rich people. That is the suggestion given over here. Okay, so now let's try to bring in the focal point. Okay, let's do the verb analysis so it makes a little bit easy. So your duty is to find out what is suggested about the people of La Paz. So the altitude affects all socio-economic groups similar way. So here, what is the word over here? Okay, affecting. Okay, the altitude affects everyone equally. Okay, all socio-economic group equally. That is the suggestion over here. That is the verb over here. What is the verb in answer option B? There is a high degree of ethnic diversity. Okay, so this is we can say the focal point. Okay, the focal point over the question is there is a high degree of ethnic diversity in all levels of society. Now let's come to answer option C. Most residents have a shared ancestry. Okay, what a focal point over here is the action over we can say, okay, sharing. Okay, the action, the verb over here is shared ancestry. That is the suggestion. And finally, what is the thing over here? Poor residents have a genetic advantage. Okay, so they have a genetic, the poor people, they have a genetic advantage than the rich people. Now you see, big sentences now made much more smaller. Altitude affects everyone equally, high degree of ethnic diversity, shared ancestry, genetic advantage. Now, don't you think now it is a little bit easier? So this is why identifying the focal point of the answer options along with the question stem makes it easier for you to pinpoint the correct answer. Right. So now let's take a look into the sixth paragraph. So remember the question. The question is asking you, what is the author suggesting about the inhabitants of La Paz? Okay. So let's go to the sixth paragraph. Yeah. Now, the lower socio-economic groups, say, if they want, they can say poor people, the poor people of La Paz. But this is OET. They will make it complicated. So the poor people of La Paz are almost entirely made up of Aymara Indians. Okay, so one funny thing you need to know about the word Indians. Okay, so we actually think the word, so we are Indians, right? Our country is India. But do you actually know what is the meaning of Indians? Actually, it is actually a very insulting word, Indian. Indians basically means, tribal people. When it comes to the English literature, see in Malayalam and all we say Adivasis, so I'm sure in other language also Adivasis basically means, tribal people. The forest people is what we call as, Adivasis, right? I'm not sure what they say in other languages and all, but in, so the tribal people, that is what, that is basically Indians. Indians basically means like, tribal people. Yeah, same. Right. So, yeah. Right. So the word Indians, okay, so I'm going a little bit off topic. So Indians basically means tribal people. So the British people, they actually gave us the word India. That means as if we are tribal people, and then we accepted it. Okay, so anyway, that is one funny information over here. Right, so the poor people, okay, the poor people of La Paz are actually made up of Aymara Indians, that is tribal people. Okay, so there is a place called Aymara. So the poor people, so most of the poor people living in La Paz, they are basically these tribal people called Aymara Indians. Okay, and these are ancient ethnic group with a history in the Bolivian highlands. Highlands basically means the hill stations spanning a couple of millennia. Okay, so now century. Okay, century basically means what? 100, right? Century basically means 100 years. And then we have jubilee. Jubilee means what? 50 years, right? Millennia. Millennia basically means how much? 1000 years. Okay, so you have to some additional information over here. So couple means two. So couple of millennia basically means what? 2000 years. Okay, so see, this is how the OET will try to trick us. So instead of saying that, most of the poor people living in La Paz, they are basically tribal people who have been living here for the past 2000 years. If they want, they can simply write like that, but they will not. Okay, they will try to write an advanced vocabulary like this. Okay, so anyway, you have understood the meaning. On the other hand, individuals of higher social economic status. Higher social economic status basically means what? The rich people. Okay, now the rich people represent a largely European and North American admixture. Okay, so poor people are the Aymara Indians who has been living there for the past 2000 years. Now we have rich people. Now who are the rich people? They are newcomers. Okay, they have come to this place very newly, and these rich people are basically the European people and the North American people. Okay, and mixture of them to higher, and these are not very new. Okay, they have come over here very recently only. The poor people, Aymara Indians, has been here for more than 2000 years. Okay, it seems therefore, now here say that the last sentence is, it seems therefore that an ancestry basically means what? Our forefathers. Okay, great grandparents and all. Ancestry linked to prolonged high altitude resistance. Prolonged basically means what? Duration. Okay, time duration, prolonged duration of time. Okay, to high altitude resistance confers protection against reduced atmospheric oxygen. Now see over here, this is very advanced English, very advanced English. Now see what is it saying? Ancestry. Okay, as ancestry, as I told you, our ancestors. Okay, the ancestors linked to prolonged high altitude resistance. Now who has been living in high altitude for very long time? The Aymara Indians, right? So these are the people. The Aymara Indians are the people who have been living for a very long time. That is, for past 2000 years, they have been living there for a very long time. These people. So they are telling the ancestry link to prolonged high altitude residence confers basically means give, okay, gives protection against reduced atmospheric oxygen. Okay, so here they're telling the people who have been living there for almost 2000 years, their body is adapted. Okay, their body is adapted and their body gives protection. Okay, their body is actually given protection against reduced atmospheric oxygen. But what about the new people? Okay, the new people over here. Who are the new people? The new people are the rich people. Okay, now the rich people, they don't have that genetic adaptation. Okay, the rich people, they don't have the genetic adaptation, but the poor people have, the Aymara Indians have. Okay, so that is what we actually get over here. Again, very advanced English, right? It's not very simple English. Now let's come to the 20th question. The altitude affects all socio-economic groups in a similar way. Can we choose answer option A? Now see, what is answer option A telling us? All socio-economic groups are affected similarly, that is equally, that is the rich and the poor, the altitude affects them the same. Okay, so can we choose that? No. Because why? Okay, because here they're telling it is the poor people. Okay, the poor people over here, they have more protection. Okay, they have more protection against reduced atmospheric oxygen. Right, so it is not entirely correct. Right, so therefore the altitude does not impact everyone equally. Okay, the altitude affects the rich people worse and the altitude affects the poor people less worse. Okay, because the less people have more protection against the high altitude. So it is basically the opposite of answer option A. So answer option A can be eliminated, because what is the suggestion over here? The inhabitants, okay, the people who are living in Rapas, the altitude does not affect. So here the verb is affects everyone similarly. It does not affect everyone similarly. It affects rich people and poor people differently. So answer option A is wrong. Now let's come to answer option B. There is a high degree of ethnic diversity at all levels of society. Now here, what is the verb over here? High degree of ethnic diversity at all levels. That is, in rich people, there are different ethnic groups. In poor people, there are different ethnic groups. Right, in all levels of society, there is a high degree of ethnic diversity. Is that true? No, because what they told you? They have told you that rich people are basically the newcomers. Rich people are the European people and the what you call it, North American admixture. Okay, and the poor people are basically the Aymara Indians. So there is no ethnic diversity. Ethnic diversity is not there. Okay, there is no diversity. There is opposite diversity. Rich people are this, poor people are this. So there is no high degree of diversity at all levels of society. Right, so that is also incorrect. High degree of ethnic diversity is not the suggestion that has been given by the author. So B is eliminated. Right, now let's come to answer option C. Most residents have a shared ancestry going back 2000 years. Is that true? Most residents have a shared ancestry. No, right? The newcomers, the rich people, they have come there very recently only. Okay, so they don't have the same ancestors as the Aymara Indians. Okay, so that is also not correct. See, most residents means more than 90% of the people. Okay, now see over here, 90% of people, they don't have the shared ancestry. The poor people have the shared ancestry, which goes 2000 backs. Okay, not the remaining part of the population. So that is also completely incorrect. So now we see over here, what have we done? We have basically eliminated answer option A, answer option B, and answer option C. So that means even before you read answer option D, answer option D will be the right answer. There is no need for you to read answer option D. Without even reading, you can choose D as the correct answer, because you have eliminated A, B, and C. Right. So what is D option telling us? Poor residents have a genetic advantage over those with higher incomes. That is, the poor people. Who are the poor people? The Aymara Indians. Okay. They have a genetic advantage. That is, their body has better genes to adapt at high altitude people than the rich people. Right. So even if you don't understand whether D is the right answer option or not, you can still choose D as the correct answer because everything else we have eliminated. Now you see in the last paragraph over here, the last paragraph over here is saying, it seems, therefore, that an ancestry linked to prolonged high altitude. Ancestry. Okay? Prolonged. Who are the people who has been exposed to high altitude for a prolonged period of time? The Aymara Indians. Okay? And they have a genetic advantage. See, the genetic advantage is they get protection against reduced atmospheric oxygen. So, the correct answer option is going to be answer option D. Right. Now you see over here, if you find this difficult, then the most easiest method is the going back and forth. Okay, going back and forth is the most easiest strategy because only one answer option at a time is in your mind. So you have to read the question, read all the answer options, then you have to read the paragraph one full time. Then just read answer option A, you go there. Okay, now you see the altitude affects all socio-economic groups similarly. Now you see, only one answer option is your mind. Okay, all altitude affects everyone equally. Is that mentioned? Is that correct or not? No. Okay, now see over here, ancestry, the high altitude, more protection, poor people. Okay, so therefore, it is clearly mentioned that rich people and poor people are not impacted equally. So we can eliminate answer option A. Okay, so like this, you can go back and forth if it is a very difficult question. Now see, you have to understand that there are easy questions and then there are very difficult questions. If it is an easy question, then immediately you can find the answer. But then there are going to be difficult questions. Difficult questions, you cannot simply immediately find the answer. You may have to go back and forth. Okay, you have to perfect your elimination strategy. Right, so always remember smart work is extremely important. If you're just doing 2, 3, 4 questions a day, that is also enough. Build the foundation. Now this is one question that everyone wants to ask me, and sometimes they don't, sometimes they do ask, how do I improve my time management skill? Now you need to understand that this is an elite level skill. Time management is the elite level. That is, it is the final barrier. Okay, that is the last thing that you need to be worried about. Before that, there are a lot of other layers. That is the foundations. Okay, you have to build a basic foundation, and that includes comprehending the question. First, you have to understand how to comprehend the question. You need to identify the keywords. You need to link the keywords together. You need to have good retention skills. Okay, and then you should have good, elimination strategies, and all those kind of things. So that is the foundation. So first, you build a thorough understanding regarding the foundation. That may take some time. Maybe it may take 2 weeks time. Maybe it may take 3 weeks time. Maybe even more than that. Okay, so once you have built the foundation there, right, the mental stamina, the mental endurance, thinking very logically and all that, and then the last thing is what you worry about, the time management, right? So this is what I have to tell you. Now let me just use a very simple example. So how do I say? Okay, so let's imagine that cooking a dish. Okay, so I'll just give me 2 minutes to explain this to you. Let's say that you have a dish that you're an expert at. Okay, you're a complete expert at, and let's say it is a very complicated dish. Maybe you want to make a cake. Okay, so a cake or something. All right, so you're an expert at making cake, and within 1 hour you're able to make 2-3 different types of cakes. The very first attempt, did you take 1 hour to make that dish? No, right? Maybe it took you 2 or 3 hours. Right, so maybe you are teaching someone how to make a dish. Okay, and that someone, first they have to understand the basics. Okay, these are the ingredients. Okay, I have to cut them like this. Okay, and then I have to use this particular equipment. I have to have the fire at this particular temperature. Okay, and all that basic foundation skills they need to develop. And once they have developed the foundation skills, only once they have perfected all the skills, then only they will be able to, make the dish within 1 hour. Right. So similarly, if you are an expert at making a dish, you have to build these skills first. Only then you will, you will be able to, okay, no matter how pressure situation is, I'm going to make this dish as quickly as possible. So remember this, that time management is an elite level skill that happens towards the end. That is the final barrier. Now many students, like, they are like so impatient. Sir, I'm not able to find the answer within 1 minute. So that doesn't work. Okay, so you have to be patient over here. Understand there is a foundational things that we need to first overcome, and then automatically one fine day you will basically see the results there, right? So but it all depends upon how patient you are with yourself. If you are not patient with yourself, you're very strict with yourself, then you will not build the foundations as well. Then you will sacrifice the foundations, and without the foundations you will never have time management, so nothing will happen. So there will be zero progress, right? So that is the end of today's session. Now everyone just take a deep breath, because now I'm going to give you a small discussion about the speaking. So every day I'll be giving you some important information about speaking as well. So just just give some stretching to yourself. Take a deep breath, because we are going to shift from reading today writing. Okay, so let's just take a writing today. So just one tip, okay, just one tip only I'll give you. Right, so let's just take a document from here. So when it comes to writing, what shall I say to you? What advantage? Let me just open this document, because I did go through most of your letters. Okay, so yeah, I'm noticing some improvement, but still there is something else that I just want to say. All right, so I'll just give you some small assignment over here. Okay, so that is, you see, when it comes to the Cambridge University case notes, there are always going to be some sample letters, right? So those who are in the very beginning of the OET preparation, writing and all that, I would suggest that you read these sample letters. Okay, so see, we give you the corrections, right? So we have a very detailed lecture. We give you the detailed discussion, how to select the relevant information, how to ignore the irrelevant information and all that. Okay, then we give you the paraphrasing exercise, all and good, and then you send us letters for correction, and we give you very detailed corrections as well. Again, no one else does this, but anyway, we put in the effort to do that as well. So the first thing I would say is that have a red ink pen with you. Okay, so have a red ink pen with you. Okay, and just mark the mistakes. Okay, so in the digital correction that we send you, there will be some mistakes that you are making, and that mistakes will be mentioned in the correction that we give you, right? So with a red ink pen, in the letter that you have written, you just mark the mistakes that you have made in your letter, and you just write down the corrections there, so that later on when you're going through the letters that you have written, it is much more easy for you to pinpoint the mistakes and prevent the same mistakes from happening. Okay, and then the other thing I just want to say is that read the sample letters. Okay, so for every single case note, you can see there are a lot of sample letters over here. So the reason why I'm telling you to read the sample letters is to make you understand the importance of flexibility. Okay, flexibility basically means the opposite of rigidity. Okay, now there are some students, they are very rigid. Okay, rigid basically means what? They have a very fixed mindset. Okay, this is the only way I should begin a letter. This is the only way I should end a letter. So when it comes to OET, there is no rigidity. Okay, you have a lot of flexibility. You have a lot of freedom over here, and you should really get to know how to utilize the freedom. Now you see, this is how they are beginning this particular sentence. Thank you for saying this is Priya Sharma. Now you see, let's take a look into another letter. See, this is how they are beginning. I'm writing to request a workplace assessment. Okay, and then if you take another letter, now see, here they begin with thank you for seeing. Okay, and if you take another letter, I'm writing to request. Now you see, every letter, and these are all official OET case notes, Cambridge University case notes, and their own sample letters, and the OET itself is telling you. So the reason why these sample letters have been given to you is to inform you that flexibility is the key. Okay, there is no need for us to be very rigid. You can write in your own way, but you have to give importance to the patient. Okay, and also follow the NCR format as frequently as possible, because you're doing the writing after the listening and reading. After listening, and so see, listening and reading itself is very draining, right? So by the time you do writing, you become even more tired. Your brain is not going to function properly. So you need some tools. That is why we give you the NCR format. The needs, mention the medical needs first, then convince the person, and then request. So very politely request. And you will not be able to see the NCR format over here. And if you truly ask me how much marks I would give for these letters, I would suggest maximum C plus. So these sample letters you have here, they are not grade B or grade A letters. I would say C plus or grade B letters, no more than grade B. I will not give them grade A, but the format that we give you, it is almost designed to help you almost achieve grade A, right? So like that. So that's the assignment for today. Those who are writing about the preparing for the OET writing, again, if in the Google Drive we have given you access to all the 4 materials: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So again, for every single professions we have the case notes. Okay, and just go through the sample letters. So the sample letters will help you to develop your confidence levels, because you will understand, okay, there's a lot of flexibility here. There is no need for me to be rigid. You'll be able to understand, okay, how. And there are some students who struggle with identifying the relevant information. They feel, oh my God, there is so much of relevant information. But then when they read the case note, in the case sample letter there, only very few relevant information has been mentioned. So that idea, okay, how can I eliminate the user's information? So all that information, that idea you'll be getting from the case notes. Okay, so that's a tip for today. Again, writing is a very detailed lecture. I don't have the time and all to discuss that. So a small tip to you: attend the sessions, send the letters for correction with a reading pen. You make the corrections, and go through the feedback as well. And always make sure that you're going through the case notes as well as the sample letters. But remember that those are not grade A letters, right? Those are like C plus, maximum C plus. I would give them C plus, grade B, and maximum C plus only. B sometimes, but develop these skills as we tell you. Right, so today we discussed, what did we discuss? Inference type questions, right? So let's just have a small recap, and then we will wind up the session. And those who have doubts, you can actually reach out to me through WhatsApp. I'll be happy to clarify your doubts there. So we discussed 2 types of questions. Both questions were basically inference type questions. The first question was an assumption type question, and we were required to identify the assumption, identify the results of the study, make a comparison, and disprove the assumption. That required inference skills. And then we required a suggestion. So the second question was, they are asking you to think like the author, and what is the suggestion about Lapa's inhabitants made by the author. So it's a genetic inference type question. So there also we need to draw logical conclusions. We talked about going back and forth, and we talked about the right strategies. Okay, that is how to bring in the elimination methods, how to manage your time, okay, on all that, and vocabulary decoding. Okay, so this is what we discussed. So the recording will be sent you in WhatsApp and right in the group. So we'll call it a day, right? So we'll meet you in tomorrow's session, right? So I think that's it. All right then. So we'll see you tomorrow then. If you have any doubts, you can just let me through WhatsApp. Okay, bye-bye. Take care.